Welcome to YellBro Road. I am Jordan, and today we're going to watch some philosophy stuff and listen and critique or agree with. I don't know. From a channel I don't really know. What's it called? On the Line? Or the Line. And they're going to be discussing free will, I believe, right? Can you be held
He's the
responsible if free will
lineman
doesn't
of the
exist?
county.
Is this Forrest and Aaron? Okay.
You know The Lineman by fucking Glenn Campbell?
No.
Oh,
I know the
that's what
lineman
that
from,
title reminded me of.
I know the lineman from the Cleveland Browns. He's about to break the sack record. Anyways, before I get started, don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord link if you want to join that. We are in that Discord right now. And yes, all opinions are welcome, even philosophical ones. So please, let it fly. And obviously, this video will be linked in the description box for you to look at on your own and watch it on your own without us pausing, talking over it, whatever. It's kind of a free-for-all here, and I kind of like it that way. I want it to be less like a podcast or a, I don't know, traditional streaming form. I want it to be more like you're at the dinner table with your friends, just talking shit. Right? So, if you don't want to hear any of that, please go watch this on your own. I highly recommend. Highly do it. Sit down, you loser. Do it. Go watch it. All right, let's get into this. From the, I assume it's The Line, right? From a channel called The Line. Can you be held responsible if free will doesn't exist? Actually, I should probably talk about that before we even start to see where we line up with them. Uh, can you be held responsible if free will doesn't exist? Well, certain things have to be the case for free will, right? You have to be singular, right? You cannot be. It can't be given to you or owned by someone else. It has to be you originally doing something. That's what makes it your will, your choice, right? You need you there to have your choice, obviously. So if you don't have choice, like, are you a ghost trapped in the machine that has no decision making, but you're just sitting there observing? I guess in a way you could, I guess you could still kind of, maybe some people believe in that, right? The ghost in the machine idea. But for choice, you definitely need to have a you driving the car. You can't be in the back seat watching. Then we go to, okay. So if we go to the scenario where you can still be you, but your actions don't represent your free will. Like, you're not making choices. You're just there sitting back seat observing. If you're not making free choices, how can you be held responsible for something? Now, that gets weird too. Like, are they holding your actions accountable? Because if there's a real you there sitting in the back seat, not actually playing a role in the outside world, then they aren't actually holding that actual you accountable. They're holding more so just whatever the machine's acting as, right? Shot the ghost in a shell. Like, whatever the machine's
Yeah,
doing.
then the machine sets up. It was pre-set up who's the winner and loser, like who gets punished and who gets rewarded or whatever. That's like
Possibly. Possibly.
pre-cooked into it.
Possibly. But that's bringing in a little bit more of the sociological aspect, right? If it's, like, let's say, like, your
Or
choices
I was
are,
thinking more like God scenario, like God fucking sets everything up and he
oh,
makes
okay.
the winners and losers kind of thing.
Well, it works there as well. Okay, fair enough. I think it works there too. But then again, it'd be weird because typically the religious aspect is that God judges people. Now, if someone's not acting on their own volition, how can you judge them? Which actually comes right back to the crux of this question, right? Can you be held responsible? Like, there has to be a you acting so that God has something to actually judge, right? But yeah, on the sociological idea, it'd be, uh, because your genetics are made a certain way, or because your programming is a certain way, thus you will always be like this. Which is it's, for me, a rough one to get by. Mainly on the environment aspect, somewhat genetic, because I think there's not enough research into behavior and genetics. There's not enough research into it for me to justify, or for me to be like, oh, it's fully dismissed. Well, I mean, for me personally, I do dismiss it, but I mean, like, in an argumentative way, hard to dismiss because it's not looked into enough. They don't even understand consciousness yet. We're nowhere near understanding that stuff. And then environmentally, it's like, well, that means if you just change the environment, they'll behave better, or they'll behave more like the way you want it to be. So thus, it would be whatever the society's fault of why this person does something bad according to the society itself, right? But either way, I just wanted to just kind of run through cursory of the ideas and then see where these guys go. I'm sure they're going to be a lot more academic than I am. I am a shit talker to the max. That's what I do. I shit talk and I vibe, bro. But I'm curious where these guys go. Either way, let's hear it out. Let me turn closed caption on. Here we go. Here's Aaron and Forrest. Run, Forrest.
To Brian, who's been waiting the longest, calling in from
Pretty loud.
Lethal Antagonist. Somebody who likes causing problems. That's us. That's us. Who wants to talk about biological determinism? Brian, you are on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing today?
So we're already in Jared Taylor. Okay. Biological determinism. So it is the genetic thing that I was talking about, where people that make this, like, we don't know enough to really go so far down that rabbit hole. There's not enough information or scientific studies because you should be able to find it scientifically, right? You should be able to find the
super religious
bad gene.
too. So isn't it kind of like what I was saying, where they think that God, like made like black people or whatever ethnographic fucking thing, person or whatever.
This guy sounds a little bit different. He sounds like he's more like biological determinism or genetic determinism. I think he's putting it in the world of science. God, though? I think he's putting it in the world of science. I don't know if this person believes in a religion behind it or not. We haven't heard him talk yet. But when you put it into biological genetic territory, I'm assuming you're going with the scientific idea about determinism.
But they like are merging the speak of science and like religion, or like Jordan Peterson does that a lot, where he says that
I do that. I won't lie. I do that quite a bit. Then again, I'm a shit talker.
To like explain things or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he had it depends on what idea from Jordan Peterson, because I've heard a mixture of things from him. Like the idea of do you believe in Christ?
Like Albert Einstein did that. Like he was like religious in a lot of ways, but not like orthodoxly religious, and like a spin doctor. That's what's right. And left wing people like Sam Harris does that shit too. Or maybe not Sam Harris. He's not religious, but like, I don't know. There's plenty of left wing fucking religious people in that kind of same field.
Yeah. Well, what I hope you're not doing, actually, funny enough, when I'm saying comparing you and Joe together, peas in a pod, is because yes, there is especially with a decent amount of people, there's a kind of a stigmatized outlook on religion itself, because like, oh my god, look what religions do, right? Which has created the birth of the new atheists, these Sam Harrises, or why am I forgetting their names right now? Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, yeah. That kind of created that because they see all these political, social problems. Like, oh my god, look, they're saying God when they do it. Meanwhile, it's like, did those guys actually believe in that stuff? Did they actually believe in it? Like, I can point to Stephen Crowder, be like, does that guy actually believe in Christianity? I don't think so. I think it's used as a tool to get political ideas, about.
Well, that's like fucking Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris. They claim to be like Christian culturally or whatever, and it's like, what does that even mean, motherfuckers? So they're just using it, like.
Well, I think they claim to be Western more so than religious. because that would
No,
hurt
they've
their
said
brand.
that they've said that they've identified with Christianity and that they've like they almost like want to like revise their new atheist stuff that they did in the past by saying that
Really?
like Christianity's not the same. Yeah, Richard Dawkins and Sam Harrison's the whole like intellectual dark hedge or whatever. Those motherfuckers. they
I'm calling them
they
that
be
from now on,
fucking.
by the way. Intellectual dark hedge.
So he's gotta make a drawing where it's just like all those dudes kind of creeping behind that fucking bush, you know?
The George Clooney meme, yeah, or the Homer Simpson too. But
yeah. Yeah,
I
that
didn't
one
know
too.
that.
They're just floating in the hedge.
I didn't know they were doing that. I could see why they
Yeah,
might say they preferred that because of, once again, socialistic behaviors. They'll be like, look, the West is mostly Christian or Judeo-Christian, and then look at their behaviors in the world, and they'll call that like, see how more moderate that is? See how more like, it's not crazy guys yelling Allah Akbar blowing themselves up, right? Meanwhile, like these same guys are causing destruction around the world. These so-called Judeo-Christians, right? Or just Christians or just
fucked up
Jewish,
too
right?
because they know that shit. Like they're smart enough to and know enough about like geopolitics to know like when you don't do regime change, what it's for and why you're doing it, what the
Yeah.
results are.
I know less about Dawkins in that aspect, but Sam Harris for sure, full blown neocon, full blown, and there's no way you can't right now. You cannot tell me otherwise from what I've heard this guy say and the things he's advocated. But either way, okay, let's get back to this. The caller talking about biological or genetic behaviors, essentially, which makes me think of, well, typically race and IQ because of my experience of watching Jared Taylor content or Stefan Molyneux content. But also doesn't smell religious. But let's hear where he goes. Here we go.
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Cool.
Run, Forrest. Run.
Yeah, so I just wanted to call in and talk about biological determinism because I heard you talk about it on another on one of the recorded calls
Behavior
that
determinism.
is up on YouTube.
You're working in the same
And I
neighborhood,
just
basically.
I thought it was a really interesting topic, and I wasn't sure if how much research and discussion is out there about it. I know Forrest, did you say that you subscribe to that idea or?
Not really. So like the idea that your biology, the idea that something about your genetics or whatever can influence some parts of behavior, like, sure, that has to do with like generational trauma. That has to do with a lot of things like that. We talk about epigenetic changes in response to trauma. There's
Bruce
something
Lipton,
kind of there.
kinda
But
sounding.
in terms of saying like, you have these genes, you're going to be this way, absolutely not. There's no real significant evidence of that. And so like basically what biological determinism in this case boils down to is there's kind of two avenues with it, where it's like something about like everything about your behavior can be boiled down to some genetic component, and that then is going to play into IQ, that's going to play into eugenics, that's going to play into all this different shit. That's all dumb as fuck and has been thoroughly debunked a million times. But insofar as like, you know, my ancestors, my you know, the ethnicity of which I am from has a historically pastoral culture versus this other one that has a historically kind of hunter-gatherer culture. Therefore, I now have this kind of background which is very inundated with honor society. And because of that, I now have my ancestors have experienced these specific hardships which are related to that culture. And that means that today I now have these issues with an increased rate of specific illnesses, increased risks of specific health problems, an increased risk of specific traumas could be an issue for me because I have these epigenetic effects. Those types of things, sure. But in terms of like real big school, like there's an actual like predictable sociobiology to why people from this continent behave worse than people from that continent or something like that. No, nothing like that exists.
Okay. So, yeah, okay. So the caller is actually posing a question that I guess these guys may have said before, which is fair enough. Now, and because when these questions are asked, it's less so about, like, hey, will I be susceptible to heart disease, or will I be 7 foot tall, or, you know, will my muscles develop a certain way? I think it's more so about like what people really mean by themselves when they say, you know, who you are as a person. I think people mostly want to know, like, is that determined by your genetics? Which is why the behavioral aspect is so such a topic, and a little kind of a controversial topic, actually, because people want to have a sense of self-ownership. Even in my humble opinion, I don't think most people actually try to engage in being themselves. That's my personal opinion, forgive me. But they still want to at least feel like they're in control of their own experience. Shout out to the Matrix. All right? But this is maybe a little bit different, and he's saying he's just saying things like he just said, diseases or some predispositions. But then again, if it's epigenetical, then you can change those, right, from one generation to the next just by changing your behavior around, which would imply choice, right? Meaning you're not locked into a certain pattern of behaviors. You can change it around. And something you can add in actually with this would be something like Rupert Sheldrake, Rupert Murdoch. Who's that? That's the fucking Fox guy, right? Fox News guy. Or News Corp, yeah. Rupert Sheldrake. He talks about morphic resonance and the idea that it's the predispositions are actually, damn, has he, because I don't think he explains it in like a genetic type of way. I think it's more so, he calls like fields, right? Like a resonance field or something like that. I'm fucking his work up. Please go look up Rupert Sheldrake on your own. Don't let me fuck his work up. Where it's, man, he was talking to Joe Rogan years ago when Rogan looked like he was cool, at least, but I guess not anymore. But where Rogan looked all right. Pause. But I think he was talking to Joe Rogan, and Rogan talked about, like, hey, when I play with my kids, it almost looks like they're doing jujitsu moves, right? When they're like, or if they're play fighting with each other, looks like, oh my, one's taking the back, one's putting hooks in, one's, you know, trying to sink in the choke, or maybe not a choke, but you know what I mean, like they're trying to control the other person's body movements just by kids just playing around, right? Like play fighting or whatever. And Rupert Sheldrake's like, well, maybe because you practiced for so long before they were even born, because you practiced that, something about the you-ness gets passed on to their themness. I consider the idea. I can't say I know. That's just another idea kind of wrapped up in this whole behavior thing. And let's be real. The real question is like, well, what is consciousness? What is that? Not just being awareness, not just awareness, but like our actual drive to do something in the world, or our thoughts. What is that thing sitting there? It all drives towards that question, I think. And one more thing, just something to think about for anyone. One more thing. Him saying the debunking of the genetics and behavior part. Once again, for me, it all comes back to consciousness. So thus, if you can showcase that consciousness is just a phenomena from the biology, right? From physical biology, and there is no you. You are not you. Everything is all electrical circuitry in your brain and in your body, and that electrical circuitry is just being programmed by the external environment, meaning like nature just being nature. Until we get there, like that's a hard argument to go with for genetics to, you know, determine everything that we do, which is why these once again, they can't go into consciousness yet, not yet at least. They have no fucking clue. They're so far away from it. We just saw Daniel Dennett in a Matrix documentary. He's one of the guys that believes that, quote unquote, the consciousness kind of arrives in the brain somehow, or just spurs from the brain somehow. And he hasn't been able to square that one at all. And it's a tough field to try to figure out through that methodology of like, here's my hypothesis, let me go prove it. That's a super duper difficult thing to prove. Super duper difficult. But I don't think it's just fully gone yet. Like, there's still things people can study. There's been studies on twins and shit like that. You know, maybe not the greatest, but it's an attempt. Either way, let's continue. Let's see if the caller, Brian, has some pushback or if someone else has some commentary. Here we go. Or wait, did anyone else want to say anything before I hit play? I just kind of ate up the entire, all the dialogue. Going once. Going twice. Sit down. You're done. Sit down. You're a loser. Here we go.
Yeah, I didn't even think about how problematic that could be, which is partially why I wanted to talk to somebody about it.
It could be
I
very
mainly wanted
sociological,
to discuss it as
problematic, very much so.
Consciousness and like free will and that whole idea.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So look up. I guess go ahead. I'm of two minds on the issue.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts
But
that you wanted to bring up?
use one of them.
But so like I was having a conversation with my partner about this, and we were talking about like whether or not we think we make our own choices or if that's just a result of our biology. And I'm kind of in the camp of it's a result of my biology, and she's in the camp that it's not. I kind of, though I am in the camp of it being a result of my biology, I do also think that like as it pertains to my subjective experience, that doesn't really matter. It's just something I'm interested in. But I'm curious to.
And you said
know,
what specifically is it that is determined by your biology?
Behavior?
Like my consciousness and my decisions. Like, do I make my own decisions, or is that just a result of my biology?
I wanted to be sure because I wasn't quite sure if you were saying like your mind in general. Okay, so it's the decisions that you make. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Or we think we make. Huh?
So there's two camps in this sort of thing. And I said I'm of two minds of it. I think that there's good points. But like the major argument against free will from a biological perspective in this way is simply that if I do any action, right? So I shoot a gun at somebody, or I decide to have ice cream for a dinner, or whatever it may be, right? The immediate impulse, like the action potentials firing through these neurons at this exact moment that I chose to do this thing, the physical substance of me deciding, right? That is one thing to look at. And then we take one step back and we say, okay, so what was going on in the past hour that allowed me to be in the mental state to have this decision be made? And then we go back further. What was happening today for the past 6 to 12 hours? Where's my blood sugar at? What kind of day have I had? What are the factors influencing my mind that and my decision making that would lead me now to make this decision? Blood sugar is a big one. You can see this like in court cases, for example, where you're much more likely to get a friendly judge who lets your case go immediately after lunch, right? And so we go back now to the past several days. How have I been sleeping? How has my career been going? Like, what's been going on at work? What's been going on in my relationship? How's my marriage? How's my family? Like, what's going on the past few days to a week or two that is now influencing the mood that I'm in the long term, the cortisol levels, the endorphin levels in my body in the long term that now lead me to make this decision. Then we go back a few years, right? Where am I at in my life, and how satisfied am I with that? And what kind of experiences have I been having? And what kind of education have I had? And all this to go back to my childhood. How was I abused? Was I spanked? Was I taught these different lessons in life? What were the values of my parents that were passed on to me? Now go back several generations. How did my parents get the values to pass on to me?
Yep.
What kind of culture did they grow up in? What kind of wars were fought? What kind of
and that's why
situations or events or whatever did my family historically endure that now lead to my decision to shoot a gun or eat ice cream at this moment?
Before I finish, like, that's why it's so fucking difficult. And if you ever listen to some lectures from like a guy like Alan Watts, where it's like, well, when were you born? When you came out of your mom's pussy? Or was it when your dad had a twinkle in his eye when he saw your mom for the first time? Right? That little light in his eyes, like, damn, she's fucking hot. I'm gonna try to smash, son. You know what I'm saying? Like, when were you actually born? Because a whole bunch of events had to happen to lead to you coming out of your mom's vagina. A whole lot of events. Or if you're born in a lab, but whatever. Wherever you're born at, a whole bunch of things have to happen. Now, well, all right, I'll let him finish first but yes, that's why it's so fucking difficult to try to pinpoint these things and say, well, that's the cause right there. It's like, really? And I have carried this idea that this is Forrest, right? The idea that Forrest is saying, I have spent plenty of time contemplating those ideas, because it isn't just something in a vacuum. It isn't just one event happens and boom, now this happens. It's a whole thing happening. It really is. That's why, like, I say practically, like in a practical way, not even in a woo-woo way. If you change yourself, you do change the world. You know, but it has to, figure out what is the self, who am I, all that stuff, right? All the big questions. But if you can be you, and you decide to change you, that means the world changes. It really does. If you look at the world as a whole, or if you look at the world as like a giant, pure white wall, right? Okay, the walls are all white. Got it. If I grab a dab of paint and put a red dot on the middle on it, all of a sudden the entire wall is not the same. It's not the same wall anymore. It's completely different. And same happens with people's choices and their behaviors and shit like that, right? Unless we're all just genetic robots, biological robots. Wait, what's organic robots that are just programmed by nature, reality, whatever, biology, yada yada yada. But it's worthy to think about existentially. Don't be afraid of those questions. Do not be afraid of those questions, which is something that I see in the problem in regards to the religious world. It seems like they get a little bit scared about questions like this, because they're worried that they have to leave their fucking safe house and ask these questions about themselves or to themselves. Don't be afraid, in my humble opinion. Go fucking seek the answers, man. And don't give up after a fucking day because you didn't, figure it out. Because, let's be honest, these motherfuckers didn't figure it out. The motherfuckers that their jobs are to figure it out haven't figured it out. They're all trying still. Either way, let's continue. Here's more from Forrest. Here we go.
Go back even further to the past 1,000 years or so. Was my culture historically pastoralist or agriculture or whatever? And so they have this honor society that has honor killings and like this whole value system and morals and shit that's very heavily impressed upon people and their children. Or are they more, in this other kind of society that's a little bit more egalitarian and doesn't have the kind of social hierarchy and whatever? And how does that lead to me? Have I historically had a society that was individualistic and puts a lot of weight on one person? Or is it individualistic and puts a lot of weight on the community? And how does that lead up to me? Go back to my ancestors of other species, all the way back to what kind of predators were hunting Homo erectus, 1.8 million years ago on the plains of Africa that eventually led to this. And you go back further and further and further, and you get to this point where all the way to the beginning of life, there is this causal chain that necessarily, logically, reliably, predictably leads up to I had ice cream for dinner or I shot somebody with a gun. And that's this idea where we get this really deterministic, no free will kind of view. And from a neurobiological perspective, sure. And from an evolutionary perspective, sure. And that's really cool. The opposite side of that is that you have a whole deck of cards in your hand that you can choose any card you want freely. And yes, it is true that I can't decide. It's very rare that I would come up with a brand new thought, a brand new idea. It's much more likely on any given morning that I'm going to decide from the choices that are made available to me by my upbringing.
To be fair, those are still like, if you go strictly genetically based, biologically based, environmental based, it's still unique because no scenario is exactly the same. So that's it still is unique. So he's being vague with that, just to get to his point. So I just wanted to point that out, though. All right, here we go.
Every time I go out and learn a new thing, I now have a new card in this deck. But as it stands, the decisions I make, whether I shoot somebody, eat ice cream, whatever like that, those are partially determined by the same things: my childhood, my upbringing, my mood, my all that. Everybody agrees on all that. The issue is, like, did I take the time to add more cards to that deck on purpose? Did I take that time to build a habit of thinking through making a serious decision versus a not serious decision? Do I practice that kind of mindful behavior? And do I take education seriously and value expanding my horizons? And if I do, then now I'm no longer necessarily so determined. I can now decide to open up my options and make more conscious choices. And I can no longer blame, I had this kind of week at work and I'm in this kind of mood, so I chose to shoot the gun. I have chosen to break that cycle and break that chain, that deterministic chain. And there are people out there on the other side who would then look at that and say, right, but the ability to make that decision is also a deterministic thing. And it's whatever. So this is an area of discussion and debate right now. I encourage you, if you want to hear the determinist side, read Robert Sapolsky, really, really famous neurobiologist who wrote a whole book called Determined, all about how there is no such thing as free will, and how if you really, 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 really think about it, you can never hold anyone responsible for anything ever. There can be no blame and there can be no praise. Nobody ever does anything good or bad of their own free will because there's no such thing as free will, and everything just plays out like dominoes.
Okay. I'm gonna stop him there because that was a lot. Okay. Now here's a phenomenon that I feel like something I've noticed within my own experience, but feel like I've observed in others, which is actually that word, observation. Where it is like, hey, you do this because you saw your dad doing it, right? Or your mom doing it. But then if I, hey man, you're doing that because your dad's doing it. What? I am? And they start observing it. All of a sudden, that thing, it was already different in the first place because you are different than your mom or your dad. You're different beings altogether, in my worldview at least. But now it becomes like to yourself, egotistically looking at yourself. There's like a weird abstraction that people can do where they can see themselves from the outside. And thus, because they can do that, they can now, it drastically, not just changes, but drastically changes. Once you observe your own behaviors. So even if it is like an environment like this, like, oh, you grew up in this neighborhood and now you behave this way. Someone's like, man, you're like that because you're from that neighborhood. And they're like, oh, fuck, maybe you're right. Am I like that? And they just ask the question, right? They don't determine anything off rip. They ask the question and they start observing themselves like, fuck, I might do this, but I got this from fucking Bobby down the street when I was 10 years old. That's where I got this action from. Fuck. Like that big question, right? Like, who am I? And that is where, like, once again, and I'm not trying to shut on the Forrest guy at all. I think he's made some pretty good assessments here. I think really good assessments actually, and worth thinking about. I'm just saying that because of the complicated, at least ideas of the idea of consciousness, because that's such a weird idea to really stranglehold and keep in a place. Like, okay, this is this. Because they don't have that, it becomes a kind of a struggle, and thus you end up in like kind of vagaries instead of really considering it as a major factor. Because I think observation is the key to anything of in regards to change of behavior. All right, and then you can observe yourself observing yourself, and it can go on continuously. I think, in my opinion of things, like psychologically, you can build layers of observations, observation on top of observation on top of observation. All right, you can like do that. I think, in my opinion, infinitely. Now, as you're probably personally experiencing it, right? You know, skin in the game, like experience, not some academic shit, but like actually experiencing it. In my opinion, at least, it'll fade. Like the layers that you've made will seem to fade away, almost like it was you in the first place. It'll feel like that, if I had to guess, for most people. But you did build it from the beginning, from observing something. I know that from personal experience. I can't speak for others, but for myself, that is what I've seen, experienced of myself psychologically. What was the other idea? Fuck. Like, because all these ideas are so complicated, I get a little bit lost sometimes. Let me go back. There's another idea I wanted to go over and just say my opinion about. It was before the author. Let me say.
Would then look at that and say, right, but the ability to make that decision is also a deterministic thing. And
okay, that's before this.
Take that time to build a habit of thinking through making a serious decision versus a not serious decision. Do I practice that kind of mindful behavior, and do I take education seriously and value expanding my horizons? And if I do,
the cards. Okay. He's saying he brought up the idea of like a deck of cards, and the more I guess care for learning, maybe curiosity might be the word. Who knows? If you actually learn the lesson, you get another card in your deck, and you have more cards to play with when it comes to decision making or a behavior that you do. Right? What do I say about that? Man, oh man, because I think it gets really complicated because of the idea of perception, right? Of I'm sure people will be like, "Hey, you have free will. You can do whatever you want. Okay, go fly then. Go fly." I'm like, or a guy in prison. See, you're locked up. You can't be free. You're locked up. But perception actually jumps into the equation. Someone could jump off a bridge and be like, I flew for at least like 5 seconds, bro. I felt it. I flew. Just based on their perception and definition of things. Which is, once again, a difficult thing to kind of bridge the gap from one person to another. That's a difficult thing to navigate. Right? Or we've heard the stories, especially the heroes and legends stories where someone's like the Count of Monte Cristo, right? Where you're put in jail, but you're the freest person on earth because you expanded your mind or something like that, right? To where freedom isn't just, are there bars around your windows or not? It's an actual state of being. And if you define it that way, then why can't you live it that way? Now, granted, you can run into scenarios where people start kind of a cognitive dissonance, right? Where they start, kind of playing with terms in order to make it fit their own reality. Shout out to Metric and Black Sheep. Shape, shift, and trick the past again. But no, you can honestly get there before you even walk into the scenario. Someone could be like, I'm free, I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do this. And I did all the existential observation and self-examination to call this moment a choice that I'm doing. And they do that fucking choice, and it gets them locked up in jail. And they're like, don't worry, I was already free. The real freedom, they might actually define it that way. And I think you have to respect it. In my opinion, at least, you got to respect that idea. I mean, I define freedom that way. Right? Someone's like, Jordan, well, you can't fly though, can you? You're restricted. You only have a certain deck of cards you can use. I'm like, no, I can fly. My version of it. But I worked on it before the situation of being asked, well, you can't fly, can you? Or you're in prison, you're not free. I worked on it before that, which gives it a little bit more reflective legitimacy, right? versus like just coming upon it and then thinking about it in that time, like, oh fuck, am I free? Right, that already like pulls into the question.
But Matt,
how'd you know? What's up?
what happened to Matt Hunter? Well, Matt Hunter was on, and then some kind of weird symbol I've never seen before showed up by his name. It looked like a yellow exclamation point, and then he dipped.
That means network connection problems. Yeah.
His internet's out.
Yeah, his internet might be fucking up.
Oh my God, that's good for you.
Why is that good for me? He doesn't talk. Whatever. Wait, is he mad? I'm like,
oh, so we have to talk.
I didn't know Matt Hunter was here. I'm not gonna.
Because you don't read the chats. You don't read the chats.
Now, like, I'm recording. Well, you guys put like fucking like 100-something fucking messages in the fucking chat last night, so I can't. I'm not reading through all that shit, bro. I'm just not doing it. You guys can have your little battles in the fucking chat room or whatever. But anyways, actually, this is like part of his lane. This is right in Matt Hunter's lane about race and IQ and behavior because of their IQ and all that stuff. Actually, he'd probably have maybe not more interest than me, but at least sociologically, he'd have some interest. Maybe because of incompetency or lack of self-esteem style shit. Right. But all right. Let's continue. I'll try to get closer to where he was. He brings up the author, right? Okay, we'll go from here. But so far, very interesting conversation. Very interesting. And although I struggle with technical terms quite a bit with academic philosophy, not saying he's speaking very like candidly. He's not being hyper academic and shit like that. But sometimes I'll listen to some type of like philosophical podcast or interview or lecture or debate, and sometimes the words trip me up because I gave zero fucks about being academic about philosophy. I gave zero fucks about it. I want skin in the game. What's the real deal? I want what's real, and that's it. That was my main goal when I'm starting to like look at these ideas and learn things. And nothing to do with academics, man. Although you can be real and be academic. You can do both, right? But all right. Let's keep going. Here we go.
How if you really, 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 really think about it, you can never hold anyone responsible for anything ever. There can be no blame and there can be no praise. Nobody ever does anything good or bad of their own free will because there's no such thing as free will.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring up, and I've considered this idea when it comes to things like the death penalty on a sociological, political level, right? Of like, oh, you're a bad guy and there's no redeeming you. We have to kill you. There's no redemption. There's no change. You are who you are. We have to kill you. And I strongly disagree. But that's where the people that pull the fucking, the switch down to electrocute these motherfuckers or put the needle in their arms, they're not thinking about that at all. And for me, I was like, that's extremely dangerous that you fools haven't even thought about this and you're killing people. You dummies. Shout to Jesus. All right. Let's continue. Here we go.
Everything just plays out like dominoes.
You're bad. You'll always be bad. You're done.
That's a cool argument that I don't necessarily
only works in
with.
movies.
I think it's got some cool foundations, but I don't vibe with the ending. That's the best I can give you for right now.
What'd you say the author's name was?
Robert Sapolsky, Sapolsky, I believe. You did a really cool interview with Seth Andrews a little while ago called Primitive, which is all about humans and why we're so weird. He also has a really good TED Talk called The Biology of Our Best and Worst Self, which touches on this quite a bit. And he wrote a book called Behave before then, which is also just about behavior. And he has, I've learned a ton from him. He has a lecture series that's free on you. He's a professor at Stanford University. And if you go to YouTube and look up his course on human behavioral biology, it's an introductory undergrad biology course that everybody can listen to. It's like, I think it's about 10 years old now, but the vast majority of the information in it is still super great, and there's nothing really terribly outdated in there. And you can learn a whole hell of a lot about why we are the way we are from a biological perspective. And just the key is to not stop there. Take that and go further with it and keep reading up on it, because there's a lot more discussion to be had in why we behave the way that we do.
Funny enough, Sam Harris was brought up before, and he had this idea about, he was on Rogan talking about this idea of luck versus like the idea of like an athlete. Like there is no such thing as like being in the zone, as in when that basketball player's on fire, right? And he's hitting fucking 10 jump shots in a row. Harris is saying like, well, he's not in the zone. It's just a kind of the data will lead to that exactly. Kind of saying like it's not determined, like it's deterministic that this guy's going to score 10 baskets in a row versus some sort of willpower from the player, from the athlete to make these 10 jump shots, right? Which I think is I didn't believe him at all. I still don't believe him at all, because like I've done some decently high level athletic things in my life, and yeah, it's something different. It's not the same as things just happen to work out one way or another. It feels like you're in control, and like, oh my god, I'm so focused and zoomed in that's why things are working out the way they are. That's the feeling of it, at the very, like in an unscientific way. That's just the feeling of it. But if you actually look at it, like this guy was saying, the choices within your day of, do I eat this or eat that? Do I do this? Do I do that? Can lead to a scenario where you are locked in. Maybe it's mood based. Maybe it's I got in a fight with my girl, or I didn't, or we had a great day, or I asked her to marry me, she said yes, and now I'm fucking smacking home runs everywhere, or hitting all my jump shots, or whatever the fuck. Or maybe those things make you nervous, and you have to like dig into, on an existential level, self-observation, like, well, why is that the case for me? Why does it feel like, for a lot of athletes, why does it feel like you're not even there? Almost. Like, I'm not even thinking, I'm just doing things. Like, hey, is that you, or is that your programming allowing you to hit all those jump shots in a row? And that's a worthy fucking question. Very worthy. I just happen to believe, based on my own personal observations of myself, and very much is connected to who I am as a person, the me there. And honestly, I like when as I got older, and funny enough, I was like looking at these ideas, very hardcore looking at these ideas while also playing sports. And I found the best thing was having both. Shout out to Black Swan, my number 2 movie of all time. Shout out to Black Swan, where you're doing and being at the same time. So I played baseball, so I'd be in the batter's box, and I'd not just be locked in of, okay, hitting the baseball, I kind of let the being happen of like, okay, I know this guy, he throws this pitch, usually locates it there, his velocity's kind of like this, yada, 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 he likes to throw from this type of motion, he's over the top, or he's 3/4, or he's sidearm, whatever the fuck he is. He has a good slider that if it starts here, it's going to end up over there. Like, all these things are being calculated in the background. But consciously, I'm still there too. I'm not just like everything, all sounds turned off, like, oh my god, fully locked in, right? Which is how a lot of athletes explain some of their biggest moments. It's like I wasn't even there. They have to go watch it on replay later. Like, damn, I did that? Holy shit. Right? But I was actually experiencing the idea of like really being there, like consciously, which is like a lot of people say it is a no-no for athletes. But I was doing that, and it was fucking fun. I'm cracking jokes to myself in my own mind, to myself. Little things, little jokes to myself, as I'm also kind of turning off to the idea of a baseball coming my direction at whatever velocity. It's like I'm doing both at the same time. And I was like, that is the only way to fucking fly. That's the only way to fly. It is the funnest thing ever. Where you're there, not only are you there, present, like egotistically presently there, You also have your black swan things working in the back, the being. You're also just being. And if you get really good, like there's the idea of you're observing yourself in those moments. You're observing yourself. That's why it's so vivid to me. Like I can remember like thoughts I was having while hitting a baseball. It's moving, 85, 90 miles an hour. I can hear the thoughts, or I can remember the thoughts because I'm observing myself too. It is the only way to fly. I'll say that. But either way, like I would recommend. I don't know if it's still there or not. I don't know if Rogan deleted his whole past catalog or moved it to Spotify or something like that. But look up Sam Harris, Joe Rogan, talking about the idea of luck or this in the zone or on fire idea. And funny enough, Rogan had a guy on, I forgot his name, the On It guy. The guy that created On It, I believe. I forgot his fucking name. But he played college basketball. He's like, no. Sam Harris is absolutely wrong. There is a zone. You can get to a place where you lock the fuck in. And a telltale sign of that is, can you lock yourself out? Can you be locked in and be like, you know what? I'm gonna not be locked in anymore. Well, your shots are going in anyways because you are genetically or biologically or sociologically determined that these shots are going to go in today. Right? Can I just take the basketball and chuck it over the fucking backboard? Yeah, you can. So thus this whole thing of like, well, it's a law of averages, and thus today's my zone day. Like, no, I can just take the basketball and chuck it over the fucking backboard and airball it. Right? Like, just like kind of simplistically. Granted, the ideas are a lot more complicated than that, but I'm just saying. It's like I was made for philosophical videos where I can just ramble and ramble and ramble. And just talk and talk and talk. Fuck politics. Go fuck yourselves. All right. Let's continue with On the Line. Or The Line. Here we go.
Okay. I've pretty recently done a turnaround on how I think about things. I grew up Christian, and so now I guess you could.
I know a lot of them.
And
oh my God,
I've come to the point that I am. And so these are just like the things that I'm interested in thinking about right now.
Yeah, and
before you go, don't be that guy, man. I've seen too many of them, both online and in real life, where they grew up and having to go to church every Sunday or every day for some people, like hyper religious families, and then they get out and they're like, "Fuck, I'm free now. I'm free." It's like, are you? And also, is there anything of value in that area? Maybe you're being taught wrong, quote unquote, taught wrong. Maybe you didn't find the ideas that you would actually like. Who are you? Like all those questions. But let's continue. I'm sorry.
So these are just like the things that I'm interested in thinking about right now.
Yeah, and Sapolsky, he makes a lot of great points that are really worth thinking about. Like I said, I disagree with him on this area, but I agree with everything leading up to his conclusion. That's the beautiful part of it. It's how most things go by, and really all of science, where it's like we all agree on all of this. Where we disagree is what we do with it. And so, like, I'm not on board with the idea that there is no such thing as free will, and that everything that we ever do that was the only choice we really had because of all these things. And it must have felt very freeing, but really it was this. I don't vibe with that, but I do wholly understand that, like, holy shit, the psychology and the sociobiology is damning. If you give somebody, there's an experiment that you have two people, a person's getting in an elevator and they have to go up and they're going to be taking a psychological experiment, right? So you send this person a letter in the mail. You say, hey, we want you to do a psychological experiment. Come to this university at this time. We're on the 3rd floor. And they get in the elevator. And as they get in the elevator, a guy comes in and he's got a pile of papers that are all over the place. And he's got a cup in his hand. He said, could you just hold this for a second so I can figure that out? Because I don't want to drop my shit. So you hold this cup, and the guy straightens out his papers. Thank you very much. Takes the cup, fucks off. You get up to the psychology experiment. Turns out the psychology experiment just happened. And they ask you, what did you think of that guy in the elevator? If you were holding a cold drink, you feel like this guy's an asshole. And if you are holding a hot drink, you tend to feel like this guy is a really sweet dude. And it's neat. Same thing. You do inner.
That sounds like the lamest experience. That's too simple. That's way too much. That's way too much. Now, like, I'm sure he's just being like kind of vague about what the experiment was actually about, I guess. But yeah, that's not good enough to determine, like, understand any of these things. Let me go woo woo here. There's a woo woo idea about, the idea of like someone being once born or twice born, even in some ideologies, thrice born, meaning like, and you'll hear this with something like Joseph Campbell's, hero's journey shit. But the idea of like, okay, you're born, the once born, right? You're born, you live this life, your parents are kind of dictating your life in a way, or your environmental circumstances, and they're telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. The world is also doing the same thing, right? You go to school or just out in the world, they say you should do this, you shouldn't do that, on and so forth. And then everything comes into question. Now, my personal belief is that typically, not for every case, but typically, trauma is the one. I know a lot of people say drugs are like, oh, you did these mushrooms, now you're thinking of, your mind's expanded. I don't think it's someone. I think it's trauma is the typical factor I see, because it shatters your idea of the world, right? And it could be anything. Depends on the person, right? It could be something as simple as you were rich, now you're poor. You thought Santa Claus was real, you found out he's not. You thought wrestling was real, you found out it's like something that, like, the conflict that pushes you to another level of, or another way of thinking, because your world shattered, right? And that's very traumatic for a child, or a childlike mind, right? To where you believe one way about the world, and then it just gets fucking crashed into by something else, something you didn't see coming because you just weren't aware of it. And that gets you to start thinking like, well, what else is bullshit then? Right? And it starts getting you to question all these different things, all these different experiences. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call that twice born. I would call that, okay, you're dangling between the firstborn and twice born. I think the idea of like being twice born is when you, like, okay, I refuse to ever be fooled again by this bullshit. I will not just take anything for granted. Everything's up for sale. Everything's an I don't know moment. Meaning, when someone hands you a coffee cup and it's cold, as they're, stacking all these files and shit on their arms, like, fuck, can you hold this for me? And you're like, oh, it's cold. Maybe this guy's an asshole, he's just lazy. Or, but that the quote unquote twice born, as far as my idea of it, would be like, well, maybe he's got muscle disease, maybe he's got bone disease, maybe he's not that physically strong of a person, maybe the coffee cup's a struggle to hold, whatever. Maybe it's like, oh, you know what? I don't mind holding this cup for you anyways. But that's digging into your own self. More so about the other person, right? Like, man, I don't know the reason why they're doing that. I don't know. But you know what? I know me. I know if someone, like, just in case someone's in trouble, let me help them out. Just in case. That's my idea of things. Just in case. I don't know what the situation is. There's a lot, like, in that quote-unquote twice-born stage, there's a lot of I don't knows. Because yet the world becomes different. The world needs to, in a way, define itself. Instead of you plastering over your own environmental, genetic, whatever conditioning. Instead of you plastering your shit on top of the world, let the world tell you what it is. Which takes some discipline, but not, it's, how do I put this? Shout to J Electronica. It's not, it's not difficult, but it's not simple, if that makes sense. Oh, no, sorry. It is simple, but it's also difficult, right? It's very simple to be like, well, hey, I don't know. Maybe this guy, who knows what the fucking scenario is? You leave room for reality to tell you what the fuck it is. Of trying to imprint yourself on top of it. Let them tell you what's going on. Or let the world tell you what's going on. right? You leave room for it. To me, is a very important existential lesson. And in fact, you can actually separate yourself to kind of re-enshrine, like, who the fuck are you as an individual? Just by using reflections. Like, well, I don't know what this guy's doing, but if I was in his scenario, I'd do this instead. Thus, you leave room for that person, that being outside in the world, or that scenario outside in the world. You're also defining your, grabbing your hammer and whatever the fuck, hammer and nail to fucking carve out your sculpture of who you are. You're doing two things at the same time, right? And Thriceborn, I'm not even getting into that, bro. It's too woo-woo. Leaving that alone. Either way, let's continue. It's just like, if I was in that experiment, that's what I would do. But, oh my God, can you grab this for me? Yeah, no problem. Now, why is that guy handing me the fucking coffee cup? I don't know. But it's an active I don't know. It's not a passive, like, I don't know anything about anything ever. It's more of a, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. It's like you're going through as much of the library as you can, thought-wise, of why this motherfucker's handing me a coffee cup. And guess what? Once you start doing that and getting used to that, there's no real, like, word thoughts in your head anymore. In my experience, at least. It just becomes, like, natural intuition. Like, oh, it could be this, 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 yada, yada, yada. It's 1 + 1, 2 + 2, 3 + 3, 4 + 4. Like, those are easy math equations, but because they're ingrained, it appears as though there's no thought, no, like, deep thought about it. It's just like, okay, that's that. Or in this case, could be that. Hopefully any of that makes sense. Whatever, let's keep it moving. Here we go. I ate up an hour of video by myself. Somehow. I ramble. All right, let's continue. Here we go.
Interviews with a person, right? And that's the psychology. You're an interviewer, and we want you to tell us what you think about these people coming in for the interview. If you're sitting on a hard chair, you have higher standards, and you think less of. And if you're sitting on a soft, squishy chair, you're nicer. And it's like you having a hard butt means you're a hard person or something like that. I forgot exactly the details of that one. It might be that somebody thinks of you. It doesn't matter. But like these, there's a million examples of things like this where, like, just your physical surroundings and just the things you touch and things you feel. If you read a document all about how bacteria infect cells and how pathogens spread, you tend to have more anti-immigrant sentiments immediately afterwards because you blend these parts of your mind. And so, like,
that's
there's really
wild.
damning evidence that
I would call
our
that
surroundings, our environments, the things that we experience in the day-to-day have a profound effect on who we are as people and how we behave. Like I said earlier, if you go to court, try to go after lunch, because when your judge has low blood sugar, they're going to be harder on you while still thinking they're being very fair. And meanwhile, when they have really good blood sugar, they're nicer because they're.
Yeah, but that's such a weak. That's too weak, man. Like, well, what if they observe that? What if that judge observes that? Hey, I have high blood sugar today, so I'm going to be nicer. If they observe that,
happy,
oops, my bad. That would almost make a change immediately, right? Because you observe that it's already different than anyone else's high blood sugar, or average blood sugar, or whatever the fuck. But it's definitely, like, once you observe it, it's observably changed, I would think. And same goes with any of these other scenarios. So, like, I get he's once again kind of picking, like, vagaries to go through, but, like, doesn't exactly make sense for me and my reality and what I do. I think the simple lesson is, like, well, you don't know. Doesn't mean you don't guess or contemplate, right? Or pay attention to your other faculties, right? The faculties of your mind, your intuition, your past experience, your yada yada, all that shit, right? But then, that's probably me thinking morally versus, just why do people behave the way they behave. But all right, here we go. Just boring if you don't feel like,
right? And so you have this really damning evidence saying that there are these implications. The key is education still exists. That's my big thing, is that you can still decide to learn about these factors and decide what to do about them. And even if you don't want to take the time to learn a shit ton about biology and neuroscience and blah, 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 Anybody can decide to just be more mindful about their decisions and take the time. The heavier the decision is, the more time you take to just calm down and think things through and not be rash and not be harsh and be kind to other people. Those are habits you can choose to make. And
well, that's like all that is put in the question. Like, once again, the actual version of quote unquote self-betterment would be like, well, what does harsh mean? What does nice mean? What does kind mean? What are habits? Like, what are those things? Those questions have to be answered at least on an individual level, on an existential level. Like, okay, when I say habit, I mean this. You better at least do that versus like some sort of objective idea of habit or kindness or something. You got to do the existential work, and it doesn't start with let me be mindful and let me be nicer. Like, how do you know what does nicer mean? What the fuck does that mean? Well, it means this. Like, well, you got that from someone else, though, didn't you? Thus, you're back in the same conundrum you were before. You're kind of like, you know, blinders on, walking through, unexamined, living your life. Why not just say it like, I don't know, and leave the answer open? Leave it open for whatever the truth is. Capital T truth. Like, whatever, like, I'll leave room for that thing. Why not do that? But, you know. All right, here we go. Are these guys like self-help guys, or are they just like, I'm just picking up philosophical ideas, kind of cursory, talking about them? Okay. Here we go. An agnostic
argument to me is you have to hear somebody give you that idea to then decide to do that. So, like,
oh, there you go.
Yeah,
So,
it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, he explained that anyways. Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just to also add, because the argument is ultimately philosophical about what free will even is and what happens to things like moral responsibility, crime punishment, that sort of thing. I wanted to throw in the mix as well a philosopher who has, I think, had some good thoughts and observations on this. Guy by the name of Greg Caruso. He's given a few different talks, I think even a TED talk, so it's accessible that way outside of books.
I think.
And pointing out like, hey, we understand pretty darn well that the way people act is deterministic, but there are still ways of talking about and dealing with things, even a deterministic universe, and still be able to like justify things like punishing criminals or things like that. In the same sort of way, it's nobody's fault that you get sick, but it's still reasonable to quarantine. It's completely deterministic. Yeah. It's not because of guilt, but it also makes a whole lot of sense that we would separate ourselves from this person because of the danger they have.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Weren't they talking about that Rousseau guy in the Matrix documentary you're watching?
No, this is Caruso, not Rousseau.
Oh, I thought he's.
No. Yeah. This is more of a modern guy. I think
Robin Caruso.
This was Craig, I think you said? Craig Caruso? Which I think I've heard of, but I don't fucking know. Personally. Once again, I struggle when it comes to the academic versions of these things. I want the real, I want the Batman version. Take your wallet and your coat.
Tell you fools one thing. You're going to make a YouTube set or do whatever you want, but if you put books behind you, it does not make you a smart person.
Fair enough. I'll keep that in mind in the future. I don't have it. I don't read books, so I don't have like a of like one
me
book
in my garage.
It's worth doing, but the book also has to be worth reading too. It's my opinion, at least.
I'll have like one book, but it'll be like about Ken Griffey Jr., the baseball player.
You motherfucker!
It's like a giant
the
shelf.
mainstream media too. They're like, they want to impress you with this guy, and they're gonna put a fake backdrop behind him with a fucking bookcase. They do that all the time. What kind of trend is that? That's stupid. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads anymore. They all got fucking
kind of vibe.
They all fucking do it, bro. There's not all of them, but a lot of guys like to put books behind them and all that shit. It's just the same as gamers putting out like having like figurines or fucking DVDs or video games they had or systems. or like the pop culture guys. They all have like their fucking pops and all that shit. Posters.
Those Funko figures, I hate those things.
Well, it's like it's kind of to say like, hey, look, I'm into this stuff. Look, I have an Indiana Jones poster. I'm into the movies.
I mean, like I got a bunch of
I
shit
get
like
it.
that too, because I mean, you've seen how many fucking Transformers I have, but here's a kicker: I actually like those things.
Oh yeah, I'm sure those guys like it
They bring
too.
me joy.
I'm sure those guys like it, like what they have too. It's just like it's their idea
I would
of
hope
cool
so.
shit, right? Like, oh, this is cool, so I have this. I
What
like
do you put behind you, YellBro?
I have a black screen typically behind me, an all black screen. I'm in the void.
That's I put black screen.
It was by accident too. I'm like, this works, right? Let's go with that. It's an all black screen.
How does it feel to be in intergalactic space, Jordan?
It's amazing. Ground control to Major Tom. All right.
Major Tom. Oh fuck.
All right, here we go with more. Actually, let me reset real fast. The fucking audio's delayed, per usual. God, here's the thing. And Silver, I'm blaming you for this. Is that now I'm gonna like end up watching politics and be like, like talking like a fucking dummy. Boo boo baba. Like fucking politics is so fucking stupid. After going over these ideas, like you can talk to me about Candace Owens and Alex Jones now. Like fuck, like the dumbness of this is ridiculous. It's so bottom floor stupid.
Tell me about Nick Fuentes.
I know after like trying to go over ideas about like consciousness or the universe or something like that, it's like okay.
I will guarantee you that Alex Jones and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, whenever they have books in their background, I think it's a pretty safe bet that they don't actually read those.
Well, I don't think. Well, I don't think. Maybe Candace is the only one that has that. Nick has a green screen of like a late night set looking shit, or maybe I think it's a green screen. It looks like Jay Leno set style thing. Alex Jones has a fucking studio, and Candace is in like in her study, in her mansion. But either whatever. Let's keep it moving.
Yo. Oh, we're still recording?
Yeah, man. I'm sorry to bore
I'm sorry,
you.
I'll say that later.
He's gonna say the N-word, wasn't it? Anyways, let's keep it moving. Here we go.
You get sick, but it's still reasonable to quarantine. It's completely
Hold on,
deterministic.
YellBro.
It's
Pause.
pretty darn well.
Yeah, good.
I think I feel like Kanye did Candace Owens' intro music for her fucking show.
I wouldn't be
You
surprised.
hear that shit?
Wouldn't be
It's like
shocked.
fucking so Kanye-like. It's like super fucking nice sounding and authentic sounding, but she's just an evil bitch. It's just like it gives this like home 90s fucking black chick vibe with like religious fucking connotations with like
Yeah, I skip it every time because I see her face next to him. Like, nope, and I skip.
Yeah, they do
every
like the
fucking time.
Polaroid pictures and shit, and like I'm just like, dang, bro, they're just fucking nostalgia farming. She's got
Have
it
you
fucking
seen-
nailed.
Have you seen Nick's intros?
Nick Cruz?
Nick Fuentes. Have you seen his intros? You can smell the Kanye up and down that motherfucker.
No, actually, I've never even watched his streams. I always just see clips of his ass for like ever.
We sat through 3 hours of an intro just repeating itself once.
And
I'm not doing that again.
It's the same. He had Kanye acapellas, which means Kanye had something to do with his fucking intro and all that shit, bro.
Oh shit!
You can tell. It's like songs
Well,
we know,
me and
but
Easy
different
are good
instrumentals.
friends. It's fucking. He's
They
got the
both went-
funniest voice.
They both went to dinner with Donald Trump, so I guarantee you those two texts back and forth.
I love everybody. I do too, Kanye. I do too, but I won't lie to them either. I won't
Did
do
you know
that.
that Kanye gave him the N-word pass?
Awesome. I'm officially giving everyone the N-word pass.
Hell yeah. Newtonian physics.
Right. All right.
Nigeria. Oh, let me make it
Naggers.
worse.
Jesus. You can't say that. You're black.
Naggers, man.
Well,
The
the
word.
puzzle you were trying to solve was people who annoy you. If you want to apologize, I will accept. Kiss it.
Kiss Jesse Jackson's ass.
Kiss it.
All right.
Apologize.
Let's continue. We're going off the rails now. Let's continue. Here we go.
That the way people act is deterministic, but there are still ways of talking about and dealing with things, even a deterministic universe, and still be able to justify things like punishing criminals or things like that. In the same sort of way, it's nobody's fault that you get sick, but it's still reasonable to quarantine. It's completely deterministic.
Yeah.
It's not because of guilt, but it also makes a whole lot of sense that we would separate ourselves from this person because of the danger they have to the community. So you could use a similar kind of justification for why a prison system might exist. Not necessarily our current system. Anyone who's been inside a prison cell can probably tell you it's
that's what I say.
not exactly ideal for making better people. But
speaks in
T-Rex. It's at least a way of saying, hey, we can still think about and act as
trying to get him up to caveman level, but he's still on T-Rex.
Morality, that there is some semblance of control. There is some reason to punish people for what they do, even with the whole system being completely deterministic.
Sorry, T-Rexes.
I just dropped the link to that book in the chat from Amazon there. So if you want to read his
oh my God, they're linking things. Pause.
I love this in the review. One of our great behavioral scientists, the best-selling author of Behave, mounts a devastating scientific and philosophical case against free will, an argument with profound consequences. That's great.
I guess so.
You can check that out if you want. It's pretty cool.
But you know what? I welcome it.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I kind of like, even if you do have the deterministic mindset and everything, I do still understand that, like, in my subjective experience, that doesn't really matter. Like,
Yes, it does.
Still feel like I'm choosing things, and I can still make an effort to make my life better and make better decisions and everything. And so I kind of have it compartmentalized like that. So I just.
But why?
Well, it's like, well, hold on. You don't care if you're choosing or not? Of course you do. And in fact, the idea of behaving like you do choose is the act of caring about you being able to choose. And it's like, he just did some, like, that's what I was talking about before, about the idea of, like, self-observation. Imagine, like, taking that self-observation, like, throwing it to the side and say, well, whatever, doesn't matter. I compartmentalize it. Like, what? Isn't that not just a question? It's one of the questions about life itself. Am I choosing for myself or not? You're saying that doesn't, like, oh, it doesn't matter. I can at least pretend or behave. Like, it sounds like he's like, the caller is kind of bending the knee to the, no offense, like, not saying they're asking for that. I'm saying he is, but it seems like he's bending the knee to these two guys right here on screen because maybe he likes their content, or he looks up to them, or like, man, you guys thought about this stuff man, it's so interesting, and I don't know what I'm talking about, so you know what? I'm going to bend the knee to them. That's what it comes off as, instead of, like, just actually think, like, hey, isn't it important to you whether or not you fucking choose to go left or right, when you hit an intersection, right? Isn't that extremely important? Like, not just kind of important, like, the important questions of the universe. It's part of that. Why would that be like, oh, it doesn't matter? Who cares? That can't be your answer for that. There's no fucking way, right?
Here's my thing about that. There are obviously forces that do influence what your decision is going to be, whether you choose to take that left turn versus that right turn.
Yeah.
But it still has to be your decision, because you could also just choose to fucking sit there for an extra hour. You'll probably get 100 people yelling at you later, but...
Well, that goes into, and you weren't here for all this, Joe, but they went down those roads already and say, like, well, maybe the reason why you choose to go left or right or do nothing at all could be predetermined in the first place, which is a worthy question. That's a worthy question too. It's just to not care about it is That's delinquency to me. We're like, what the fuck are you doing?
That's frightening.
You don't fucking care about that? Like that.
I mean,
That's the basis of everything. Why do you go to the movies you go to? Why do you play the video games you play? Why do you talk to the friends you have? Why do you do anything you do on planet Earth? Like that is the. It's not just simply enjoying it. You want to be involved in it, right? You want to be able to like be a part of those moments. You don't want it to be like a dream that you woke up from, like, later on in life. Man, remember that day where I did this? Or it's like you weren't even like there, like to consciously experience it. Like you're just a backseat driver to your own fucking life. That sounds. I mean, that could be someone's. Maybe it's easier that way for a lot of people. Let's be honest, right? Because you don't have to like. There's no sense of responsibility, and you're just a fucking victim of reality itself. That you might feel better in that. You might feel better in that perspective or in that idea of things. But for me personally, man, I'm just like, that's not.
It's like
that's not fun.
That's
boring.
We're not single-celled life forms anymore. Like, it's like even a fly or a bee that you run in, even a fly or a bee that you run into outside. It's very, very simple compared to what we do, but those little insects are making decisions.
Well, like, don't you? And then Prob goes, got it. Don't you want to feel like? Don't you want to have like an aha moment? Don't you want that feeling? That's what we look for, isn't it? Or like, oh my god, I figured it out. Oh my god, I hit that home run. Oh my god, I figured out this equation. Oh my god, the girl said yes. Oh my, like all those moments of
I need
love.
The price to go up. I can't take this anymore.
Oh my god, all those experience of things you love. Don't you want to be like, yeah, I am the one loving these and I'm experiencing them. But to throw it to the side, like, well, I don't know if I'm doing that or not. I might just be like a victim of the world. A conditioned robot, organic robot of the world. Like, you want those answers, don't you? You want to. That's just feel a certain way. You want to know it, don't you?
We are not single-celled life forms anymore. We can. I think it's safe to say that we can decide to do certain things when we want to.
But that doesn't work. Like, that argument will not work in the deeper philosophical argumentation. It won't work. That can't work, Joe. You have to have more explanation for it. It can't just be, well, we're more complex genetic organisms, so thus we have choice. Because that would almost say like choice arises from the brains. What? Or from your genetics, I mean.
What?
I said, hadn't you seen Osmosis Jones?
They're
sentient.
Oh fuck!
But like
that's a deep cut in my memory, dude.
Shout to Chris
I ain't
Rock.
seen that shit in 20 years.
But the idea of saying and Bill Murray, he's in that movie too. He's a sick guy. But as your genetic, like if it goes based on genetic complexity, it's still based on genetics. Meaning your choice, the thing that you're saying arrives from your genetics, is based on your genetics, which means, if your parents met somewhere else, if your parents were with different people, you wouldn't be you. Right? Your choice wouldn't be the same choice. It'd be different choices because there would be levels of complexity that maybe you found with your parents, but not if they had different partners. Right? It changes everything around. That's why it can't be strictly genetic either. You'll run into a fucking brick wall called a dead end with that one. And people have tried. It doesn't work so well.
The thing that I was gonna say is that we're not even the only things that recognize themselves, because you can see it with birds, you can see it with whales and dolphins, you can see it with elephants. Dogs, jury's out on whether or not they generally recognize themselves in a mirror.
Well, it might not. I don't think that's, once again, we can say, from outside observation, but what if the practical answer for their lives is to choose to do this instead of be self-observant? Maybe I need to catch that fucking rabbit in the woods, right, without thinking about it, versus like, what do I do today? Do I do this? Do I, like, instead of like self-observation and having a quote-unquote ego?
The doggies that press the buttons. And they'd be like, fuck you.
Sure, but what if the idea is just practicality? As in, I don't have time to think about this, I have to do this. Which is what someone that you would say, Joe, has choice, they might do the same thing. As in, they could sit around contemplating, like, well, what is life all about, and who am I, and all that stuff. But then a gun gets pointed at their head, and like, oh fuck, no, never mind, run. Where they're actually just behaving from stimuli, just like the people just like any type of animal or whatever that people believe are just behaving strictly on stimuli. What if that's just like, well, no, this is the practical thing to do. This is practicality, which is the faculty of choice, right?
I was going to say, in a way, everything we do is a response to some outside stimulus.
And you run into
Yeah,
problems with that.
Well,
I recommend you look further into that, Joe. I'll say that.
Well, my definition of stimulus is a little broader than some other people might be working with, like Christopher Nolan's fucking Batman Begins.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a stimulus. That's something that stimulates your senses. You experience that with your senses.
Yeah.
Because you can see it and hear it. And if you have the subtitles on, you can fucking read it too.
Unless the story and the concepts in the story originate from somewhere that's not based on stimuli that maybe Nolan believes you have too, which means you do experience Batman Begins. Thus, the conundrum.
Well, that's why philosophers and psychologists and neuroscientists have been all clubbing each other over the head trying to figure out this theory of mind shit.
Sure.
That debate's going on for thousands of years, and it's probably going to go on for a few thousand more.
There's a good chance. I can't say I know, but good chance. I can believe that.
Have you ever listened to James Hillman?
No. James Hillman?
Never heard of him.
He was a student of Carl Jung, and he has this idea that we're Homo aestheticus, and our purpose is to appreciate beauty and aesthetics.
Interesting.
Just thought I'd throw in a little woo-woo there.
But that would like beg a bigger question, because what survival aspect is that when it comes to the typical forms of Darwinism? Like, what would be the survival aspect of like observing beauty and being in awe of it or something like that? You know, it's almost like we're here for play, almost.
And that gets interesting because once again, that's one of those things that you can see other animals doing too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like elephants, for example. They look at us they basically look at us the way we look at a puppy, like a Chihuahua or a Schnauzer.
As far as we understand, we can't say we know though. But as far as we understand, maybe, right? Like the cat's idea I brought up the other day. Like, bitch, you don't own me. You're the dumb fucking cousin I'm trying to look after. now get on the couch. Let me lay in your lap. Do it right now.
And like house cats, kind of the closest way I can describe the way a typical house cat will see us humans is that we are oversized kittens who don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's why, for example, sometimes your cat will bring a dead bird in the house. Here, take this dead bird. You haven't killed any prey today. Eat.
You need to learn how to hunt.
Let me rub my fur on your leg, so like to protect you from predators, because you're a little bitch. But my smell is like alpha. You know what I'm saying? It's like let me rub on your leg, bro. And help you out.
Oh shit.
All right. Well, let's continue with this video.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But yeah, I don't feel like
animal intelligence can be really fun too.
Oh yeah.
Some people say that bears just sit around and just look at things sometimes.
No, Joe, they're evil. They're evil. They're evil creations made by Satan. Because why are you that big running that fast? There's no reason for that. Make them slow. Make them like zombie slow. Like, why are you having these giant monsters run fast as shit? Same with lions. Why? What's the point?
You weigh almost a full ton. Why are you climbing that tree?
It doesn't make sense. Like, why do you move that fast and like quick? You can't be big and strong and fast. That's just stupid. That's cheesing in 2K. That's cheesing in 2K basketball. Like, that's stupid. Anyways,
You know, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. Maybe it's not the squid people that are going to rule the earth when we're gone. Maybe it's going to be the bears.
That's right. Fuck,
you know what?
Actually,
Fuck you, bears.
I'm fine with that.
there's another idea from academia that what made human consciousness unique was looking at the stars, was turning our heads up and gazing at the sky intentionally, and that's what set us apart from the other animals. And it's interesting you said that, Joe, because there's bears in Alaska who've been observed laying on their backs looking at the stars. So there you go.
Maybe. It depends. Like, it's because you can't read minds. So it's like, what are they doing when they're doing that? Are they just...
If I can jump back to whales again for a moment, they may actually have like a fully developed system of language.
I've heard such things.
Oh yeah, and dolphins.
Yeah. Now, because of the frequencies that they communicate at, we're obviously not going to be able to hear all of it because the typical range of human hearing goes from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. But you know, we got instruments to listen for that shit.
Yeah, I have metric. Comes on. The only hertz I need.
No, Jordan, you need 144 hertz on your fucking monitor.
That's right. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna feel like I think I'm gonna get dumber by going back to politics after watching this video. I think I'm gonna get stupider.
You mean we?
Yeah, I guess all of us. But all right.
Candace always says you gay.
Candace said that Nick said that Alex said that Chicago, and here we go.
It's
I'm
like
really interested in
it's
this,
like
and
in
I appreciate your
Idiocracy
indulgence.
where they just say like slurs or whatever.
All right, here we go.
Matt.
Yeah, just like now.
It's a cool thing and it's a cool argument. Like I said, I'm not sold, but it's also
shout out to Mike Judge.
It's not one that I dedicate a lot of my time and energy to because I've got other shit to worry about. But like, I think there's good ideas and good positions on both sides. I encourage you to dig into it. It'll be fun.
Okay. I do have
Is that just the end?
one quick question for Forrest. Before I hop off here and everything, because I don't want to take too much of your time up. But so you're going to be at Dragon Pond, right?
What?
I am.
Dragon Pond? Dragon Pond.
I'll be on the science and the skeptic tracks.
Yeah.
Is this a fan question? If it is, I'm skipping
Are
it.
you going to be on multiple tracks?
Okay. Yeah, it's probably a fan trip. Okay. Nonetheless, the rest of the video, very interesting. These guys have at least put some thought into what they're saying, or at least some study into it. So I appreciate that as well. And
I'm sorry, but I got another just wild example of animal intelligence at work.
Okay.
You ever see a jumping spider, Jordan?
I believe I've heard of something. Spider that jumps? I believe so.
Yeah, you know, they like set down a silk line and then they just spring forward.
I don't know the details of it, but I've heard of spiders that jump.
Yeah. Like, I can't remember the name of the species, but I have seen a few jumping spiders around here. Those little bastards have brains the size of poppy seeds. And some scientists were doing studies on one, studying its brain activity. It might just be a single cell inside that brain that's doing all that visual processing for them. And they're intelligent enough to know that you and I are alive and not just strange pieces of land that seem to move inexplicably.
Wasn't that
they
what
fucking
biting
yeah,
is?
they
If they bite someone, isn't it like perceiving like that's a threat, as in that's alive and could be a predator or a prey? Isn't that the right? They don't walk on rocks. Like, let me sting rocks. Let me bite rocks. Right? If they feel something like moving, when they isn't there a chance they bite them?
Well, usually the
threat
threat detection's based on movement.
Yeah. Oh, you're a threat.
And another fun behavior with some larger spiders, and this includes tarantulas. Sometimes when they show their fangs and they don't really bite so much as they'll touch the hand of the human handler.
Mm-hmm.
That's just them trying to anchor themselves, because they kind of know that they're big and heavy and not terribly agile.
Oh, okay. What about what's that spider that lives with a frog? They live with frogs because the frogs like do something for them, and they do something for the frog.
I don't know the name of the species, but I know what you're talking about. There's a species of crocodilian out there somewhere that lets these little birds root around between its teeth to pick out food.
Yeah, I think the frog was like, yeah, there's predators and the spider protects me, but also the frog like, I don't like lick something off the fucking spider or something. I don't fucking know. They're neighbors.
And if you really want to get wild, you ever see some of the crazy shit that ant colonies apparently know how to do?
I've seen some things, but go ahead.
Some of them will raise like a native species of fungus the way we do with like corn or potatoes.
Ah, okay.
These fucking little ants are doing agriculture.
Goddamn farmers taking our jobs too while they're doing it, aren't they? Taking our fucking jobs. Goddamn farmers.
And here's the kicker: they might have been doing that long. Ants may have been doing this longer than primates have existed.
Ah, but is it genetic or is it choice? Is it development? Which almost implies choice. I don't know. Who knows?
And that's an excellent question.
Yes. Prop.
Matt Hunter's picking on me.
Go pick on him back.
I know it's Matt Hunter because he said the cliche thing.
Let me say this to you: if it's you guys are actually making arguments with each other, then fine. If it's just pure shit talking, I'd like just send him an invite to the other Discord and go do that shit over there. That's all I ever asked for. That's all I ever asked for. That's it.
Yeah, Matt Hunter.
Well, if he's making an argument, no matter how socially taboo it might be, that's fine. It's a social argument. I'm really trying to keep this.
I know
Discord
it's
clean.
Matt Hunter because
really
he
trying.
said
it's not fuck around shit. Really.
He said, why is YellBro letting Prop take over his show?
He is?
Prop has something to say.
He's in your Discord. That's fucking literally, that's like the Matt Hunter line, bro.
Yeah, we figured out a bit ago, but all I say is
the bruised kind.
Yeah, like just be. It's pretty simple and obvious. Like, okay, just regular shit talking, you know. But if it turns into full blown troll fest back and forth, like, please go to the other Discord. I'm actually
Matt,
trying to keep this fucking place clean. I really am trying to.
I made a fucking New Year's resolution.
Okay. Either
Let
way,
me stick to it.
There's your video. Please subscribe if you feel like. Comment, agree, disagree. Tell me what you think in the comment section. There was a lot of ideas here. I rambled quite a bit, but I think there was some merit and thought to it. Good.
Tell us if you want to hear. Tell us if you want to hear more about the weird shit that those fucking ants are doing.
Wait, we all want to clear something up though before they were one of these guys like a eugenicist?
No.
I didn't think so. I was listening and I thought I heard something and then I was like, shit, bro.
No. They were not saying that. In fact, I believe his name is Forrest, the guy on the left, he dismissed that idea. Yeah, good?
Yeah. I thought the guy on the right was or whatever. That's what because I heard him say that.
No, I don't think so.
No.
They may make arguments that could lead to that. Not saying the guy on the left, maybe the guy on the right kind of did that, but no, not really. I don't think he was actually going that direction. I think it was an actual honest intellectual style argumentation about like behavior and all that shit. But yeah, they were neither one of them were doing that to me or the caller either. But yes, tell me in the comment section what you think. There's a lot of ideas here. They threw out ideas. I threw out ideas. Whatever. If you have more questions of like things I've referenced, maybe let me know and I'll post it for you, or maybe react to it. Who knows? Although the Rogan one I can't do because I'll get copyrighted. Don't forget the share support. Hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. And also check out the traffic on 5.
EF Skinner for life.
Also, please
shit.
join the Discord if you feel like. All opinions are welcome. And just make it an opinion. Don't fucking nothing pornographic or grotesque. I understand spamming sometimes, but don't make it all day, every day. Please don't do that. But please, all opinions are welcome. Join a Discord if you feel like. We're in that Discord right now. And obviously, this video will be linked in that description box for you to look at on your own. And you can do so without us talking over it or pausing the video. And with all that said, give this video a thumbs down. I heard you whisper that. I heard you whisper that. Fuck. Thumbs down.